This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
I'm Phil McKinney, and you're listening to Killer Innovations. As we talked about in segment 1, today's show we're talking about sharing and how important that is, both from your own success, but it's also about paying it forward and helping others. Our guest today is Brian Kramer. Brian's latest book, Shareology, made USA Today's top 150 book list the week it was released, as well as the number one on Amazon in a number of the categories. The book explores the history, art, and science of sharing and illustrates why sharing kind of gives you that unique competitive advantage. It's not that opposite perspective of holding on to things, but by sharing it, you actually increase unique competitive advantage, both for you as an individual, but also for corporations. So, Brian, hey, how are you doing? And it's been way too long since we've gotten together.
It sure has. I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on the show today.
Man, all I know is that by Facebook, I just see you're like jetting all over the place, man. I thought, you know, I've hung up my wings. It looks like you've picked them up.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I remember back when you and I had lunch here in San Jose, and I was just starting on my blog that you got me going on, and you were telling me about your travels, and I got so excited. I think I went and tried it a little for myself here.
Well, it's like I said, be careful what you share, right? People may take and run with it. And congratulations on the book, man. It is really great. It's really great. I really enjoyed it. So tell me what got you all hooked up on this whole sharing kind of mantra that you're out there doing now? What is it that kind of got that spark for you, and why do you think it's so important for us?
Yeah, so, well, the book is an extension of my first book, Human to Human. There's no B2B or B2C, it's human to human. And so I actually started this book 2 years ago, but I ended up putting it down, setting it aside because my first book was kind of a surprise baby. I didn't really plan it. And so at the end of the day, I tell the story both in the book and in my TED Talk that several years ago I kind of lost my way a little bit, and I started to get out there and start sharing, both educating through interviews like this and meeting people through social media and so on and so forth. And before I knew it, it was giving so much back to me in spades that I started to recollect myself and figure out what I wanted to do and how I could provide value back to the company that I had built. And so, that sharing was born for me as something that not only helped others, but it also helped me too.
Yeah, I think, if you look back, from the standpoint of, as I was saying in segment 1 about the kind of the culture also of Silicon Valley, where you just find that people just kind of give that sharing away. They share their contacts, they share their experiences and their expertise. In the case of you and I met because we both were serving on the executive board for the Boy Scouts of America at the Silicon Valley Council. You heading up the marketing, and I had the enviable job of heading up the fundraising.
Yeah, what was it? You collected the money, I spent the money.
Yeah, that was that was definitely the analogy, or at least the hard time I gave you on the board, right? The more you spent, it meant more. The more I had to raise for the nonprofits. So. But I think it's also that whole concept of the fact that, do you keep everything locked away and keep it for yourself and treat everything as proprietary confidential, or do you get out there and share it? So talk a little bit about kind of your perspective on that role, as far as particularly in the context of Silicon Valley and in the kind of the culture that's grown up there.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, Silicon Valley is a kind of a unique animal, and you know that as well as I do, having been here. So it's not that unlike anywhere else. I mean, everyone always faces that single question of what do I have to share, and why would people want to listen to me? And And when you think about that, and you think about the challenge what each of us faces when we face that question, it's kind of surprising. I had a friend of mine who we were hiking a week ago, and he was asking me exactly that question. He said, "Why would anybody want to hear what I have to say?" And on different things. And I said, take this for instance. 10 minutes ago, while we were hiking, you were showing me all the ins and outs of this app called Runkeeper, which I hadn't used before. And you were showing me how it could track things and how it could show me the trends and how it could help me lose weight and how your friends could support each other. And the list goes on with everything you shared with me. And I said, shame on you for not sharing that with me a year ago. I could have learned so much if you had shared that, with me a long time ago. And he's like, yeah, okay. I said, now how many things do you know like that, you could share, and educate me, and it would help me, be healthier or be more educated on any number of topics that you know. And he said, yeah, you're right. I think I do have a number of things. I said, there's always things. We're all influencers on something. We all are passionate about something, at least one thing, at the very least. And we know a lot about that thing. So why not share it? And I think, not just Silicon Valley, but everywhere, everyone has that kind of information stored away and can really help people. And once you help people, man, the doors just open wide up.
Yeah, and I think that's the exact point, right? Is when you start sharing, what you find is that there is an audience for whatever it is you're interested in, whatever it is you're thinking about, right? And many people think, oh, nobody wants to listen to me. But they, all of a sudden you start finding, and what you think is a niche audience, turns out to be a much bigger audience than what you'd ever even anticipated. I mean, look, I started what turned now as this radio show, started off as a podcast 11 years ago. And I thought it was going to be a pretty niche-y little thing talking about innovation and creativity and how do you take products and bring them to market, et cetera. And then it's just kind of continue to grow and expand and now I've got this radio show. So we're going to stay right where we're at. And Brian, what I'm going to ask is in the next segment is for you to think about, when we come back, for you to give kind of 3 recommendations on how people can kind of get started on this whole concept of sharing. And really, how do you share the, what is it, how do you get people started from this whole concept, this whole sharing concept? It's harder than it sounds for some people, because some people have just been so private for so long. So when we come back from the segment, from the commercial break, Brian, if you could do that would be great. Stay right where you're at. I'll be posting links to everything we talked about in the show notes at killerinnovations.com, so go check it out. The site is up, and we'll be right back. I'm Phil McKinney, and you're listening to Killer Innovations.
Talk Radio. This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
I'm Phil McKinney, and you're listening to Killer Innovations. Today's guest for today's show is Brian Kramer. He's the author of a new book. It's been out for about a month or so ago, I guess now, Shareology. It's on the bestsellers list on so many, I've lost track now. Brian and I have known each other for a number of years. During my years in Silicon Valley when I was at HP. Brian is also the CEO for Pure Matter, a digital marketing firm based in Silicon Valley that I got connected to. So with Brian's book, I had a personal interest and a personal passion, and have seen Brian actually exhibit not only the whole sharing concept that I talked about in segment 1, but also kind of the precepts of what is in his book, Shareology. So Brian, at the end of the last segment, I asked you to think about 3 things that you kind of learned in the process of writing the book. You talked about in the kind of description of the book about how sharing gives us a unique competitive advantage as individuals and brands. So what are the 3 things that the listeners can take away with from today based on kind of a synopsis view of what you've learned while writing the book?
Yeah. Well, so that's, I'm going to try and be brief on that because there's so many ways and things for different kinds of people. And in fact, in the book, I break it down into 6 different types of personas. And everyone can kind of take something away from a different persona because some of us, like myself, are introverts. So how do introverts share and how do extroverts share? And, everyone's different. So, here's the 3 that I would recommend. One is, we live in a place where we basically need to focus on our brands, our personal brands. And we're representing both our personal brands for the business that we work on or in. And that personal brand is a lot stronger now than it ever has been. Employees have a chance now to be the voice of a brand externally. That's the no B2B or B2C. We all have a direct connection to the customer. That's important because now you want to be able to build your social body language. When you're online and you're looking across the spectrum of everything that you can do to share yourself on different levels. And the reason I say that is because we're as humans, we're complex. We have a lot of multi-dimensional. We have emotions. We have we have different ways that we approach certain instances, and our sharing plays a part in all of that. And at the end of the day, that plays a part into how people perceive us. So the first thing is you have to build your social body language. You have to build your persona online in the most authentic way possible, and make sure that it is allowing people to see who you are, who you truly authentically are. Number 2 is that, and I talk more about this in the book, but there's actually a formula that I arrived to on sharing that includes it's basically what I boiled everything down to. I did over 250 interviews with social linguists and psychologists and executives and so on and so forth. And what it basically boiled down to is this. What you share it is perceived on the same level of how of the content that you share. And what that basically means, put very simply, is you are what you share. So if you were to take a piece of content and you were to share it every day for the next 5 days, like if you were to share The Economist every day for the next 5 days, guess what would happen? People would start to identify you around The Economist. And I don't know why I picked The Economist, because that's something I'd probably never do. But if you were to do anything around sharing around specific types of content, people will know that's what you're interested in. That's what they'll start to identify you over. Now, here's the third thing. Just real quick before I move on, the good news is that you can change everyone's perception, and again, you have to do it authentically. But you, being that you are what you share, if you want to be perceived differently through authenticity, you can change what you share, and you will start to change the direction of how you're perceived. So the final thing is that you don't, if you're just getting started, a lot of people are still getting started on figuring out what it is that their passion is and what to share. Don't think about it in terms of don't get caught up on the topic of what you have to share. Interview others. Go out there and find people that you want to help tell their stories. And in doing so, you're going to meet new people. B, you're going to learn new things. And C, you're going to share that information that they have and help them out. And I guarantee you that you're going to make different kinds of connections on different levels simply by taking that one tactic of interviewing others and helping to share their story. It's going to come back to help you. It just will. So I would say that those are the three really important points if you take anything away from the book. Again, I haven't divided up the whole book into the art and the science side, so you can learn a little bit about both, but it kind of boils down to those three things.
Well, I think the particularly on item number 3, right? Don't get caught up on your topic, right? Because I think people kind of get into this, self-talk. I'm not an expert. No one's going to listen to me. But this advice on finding out what others want to share and then share their story, I just find that really intriguing from the standpoint of how that plays out. Because one, you help share, you get a message out in helping other people share. And in some cases, you actually may find that one topic that actually is something that you can kind of wrap yourself around. Getting back to your point number 2, which is what you share is what you share and what you are really one and the same thing.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? This is exactly how I started on my path. I went out and started to interview people, just like you're doing here, and have been doing for a lot longer than I have. I went out and did interviews on camera, and I found myself just sitting there intrigued with their story. Like it was almost like I forgot the cameras were even there. And before I knew it, the 30 minutes of being on camera was like lightning fast. I learned so much. And then we went to share the interview, and everyone else got a chance to actually be with us because they were watching obviously the same thing that I just went through. And I just felt like, it's really all about connection, right? Everything that we do, as we're sharing, the only reason that we share is because of one thing. That's connection. We share to connect with people. We share to connect with new relationships. And at the end of the day, if everything's about building relationships, to build your business, to build your life, to be happy in what you do, then you can't afford not to share, because that's how you build connection in the most authentic way possible.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, right? It comes down to, you emphasized in the second bullet, which was the whole issue of authenticity, right? And how do you come across as being authentic? You can't make this stuff up. You can't fake it.
Yeah, there are people that do, and you can tell right away. And so this, I walk through this as well in the book, but it's trying to find your voice. We all go through that, right? Like, who am I? What is my voice? Like, why is it that what I have to say is important or not, and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I really always suggest that you start in with finding your voice through learning through other people, through other interviews, and eventually you'll just find your voice. Don't try too hard. If you try too hard, that's where the inauthenticity comes, and you don't want that. So be real.
That's exactly right. You got to make sure that you're authentic. So as we come up at the end of the segment here, Brian, if people want to follow what you're doing, how can they find you?
Yeah, really easy. Just go to my website, and I've got just about everything there. My books, podcasts, and things to learn from, my social handles, all that kind of stuff. It's briankramer.com, and that's Brian with a Y and Kramer with a K. So pretty easy to connect with me there, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook and all those other nice platforms as well.
Great. Hey, Brian, really appreciate you spending the time with us. If you want to stay connected with us here at Killer Innovations, text the word INNOVATE to 33444. If you're outside the U.S., drop an email to innovate@killerinnovations.com. When we come back, I got a killer question for you for this week. So stay tuned. I'm Phil McKinney, and this is Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio,